Hey Gurias, welcome back to Lex Grace Podcast. I'm your host Alexis, and today we are diving into our new series, What is the Big Deal? And today's topic is Red 40. And I just wanted to start off with thank you for listening and coming along in this new series, as well as continue supporting my podcast as I am now going to have a set schedule. So new episodes are going to be launching every Monday, and I will be giving you guys a sneak peek of updated episodes as well as what topics are going to be talked about for the week. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode and we are going to dive into it. So, a lot of people that are not aware of artificial dyes. This one particularly is more, I would say, more popular in a bad way when it comes to people's claims on social media, as well as people advocating about the safety concerns about this dye. So let's first say, what is Red 40? So Red dye 40 is a synthetic color additive or a food dye made from petroleum. So that could kind of give you an idea of like, that's not something that you want to consume. And let's just be honest, like when we were kids, probably when you taste like food dye, especially when you put it on cakes or Easter eggs, you taste that dye and it has like the most nastiest taste to it. It's not sweet. It's not like cherry flavor. It's not strawberry flavor. That's more of a natural flavor profile than a artificial flavoring because artificial flavor does not have that taste. So you're technically tasting the flavor profile and natural flavor of something versus like the actual dye itself because they put only so much of it in it. And it is one of the 9 certified color additives that the Food and Drug Administration FDA approves for use in food and beverages. And this might not be something that is now approved, but I did overhear that in Europe they are banning certain dyes. So this might be one of them, but they did. It says the European Union also approved it of its use. And I think because obviously it's not considered harmful or anything that is going to cause any major side effects, but it does have its long term effects from my research and as well as looking at articles as well. So the certified color additive is most of the dyes are produced to ensure that they contain what they're legally supposed to. So sometimes with certain snacks that you see on the market, especially chips and stuff, most of them don't say that they have Red 40 in it because technically, just looking at the actual thing, they have updated their labeling process where they'll say nacho cheese flavor or lemon pepper flavor or something flavored. They don't just say, oh, it's just nacho cheese chips or anything like that plain. Because if you look at the back of the label, you'll see that there is the dyes right there. It'll say Red 40 artificial flavoring. So that's kind of your hint point about it. Of course, people are not seeing it as a big deal because they're like, okay, it's just a color dye, whatever. But with these color dyes, they do have some effects to our health on the long run. Not saying that all of them haven't been proven that, because like obviously if you try to look up some of this stuff, there's a bunch of information about if it's safe or not. But from the FDA's point of view is that in from health terms is that the informational or environmental protection agency or EPA defines Red 40 to be a low concern. because, like I said, it's not something that is, as soon as you consume it, something happens, So I can understand that point because obviously you do not want anything in the market that is going to cause any harm to you at all, right? And you would think that the food industry would be more prominent of our health when it comes to that stuff. And with the Food and Architectural Organization and World Health Organization agreed that the estimate direct exposure to Red 40 for people for all ages is not a health concern. But then let me tell you this, I did find an article where it does mention something about how the acceptable daily intake of this dye and its ADI of 3.2 milligram per pound, 7 milligram per kilogram of body weight. So I work in pharmacy and we can distinguish this based off of, like, when it comes to weight and stuff, or kilograms in a person, like how much from their weight is how much kilograms to give them with their medication. This is mainly for kids and babies. So we do like 2.2 kilograms and then we do the math and everything. So this is kind of what they're doing because they're translating it into where it says 470, 476 milligrams for a 150-pound person. And that is 68 kilograms. So let's just keep that in mind. So they just said that the exposure of red 40 for all people is not health concerning, right? Got it. But then they said that the acceptable daily dose is for a person that is 150 pounds. Like, some kids are not 150 pounds. And I know it's more prominent for kids to be consuming it than adults, but you have some adults that do use this in their cooking, especially like I've seen some chefs that use hot Cheetos, especially, is that's like one of the popular ones that have the red dye in it. So with what is the 80? What does this mean? So like the 80 ADI is an estimate of the amount of substance that in food that can be consumed daily over a lifetime without adverse health effects. So they're saying that based off of this, that a lifetime. So that could be from you starting eating this stuff since you were 16 maybe, or all the way to your like a older, like in your 40s or 50 maybe, or older than that. So they're going based off a lifetime. They're not thinking of it like maybe in a couple years or anything like that. But of course, with the studies that they said in America, they said that American shows that Americans aged 2 years and younger consuming an average of 0.02 milligrams of red dye per pound of body weight per day. So they're saying that, I guess that's what they have seen with kids, how much they consume. Well, of course, that's because with kids wanting snacks like chips or sweets, you limit that. You don't just give them that continuously to the point where they're overeating it, and that's all they're eating. So, of course, their studies will be accurate when it comes to the amount of how much they're consuming because it's not that much unless someone's feeding their kid like a tons of it, and they're just letting them be happy and whatnot there. And then other studies have observed that Americans' intake of red dye may be higher, so that's where it becomes problematic. Even though that they have their studies that says this is because essentially every food that you consume or any ingredient that you see as alarming or something like this where you're kind of questioning why are they adding this and stuff is a higher amount. That's where it becomes problematic because now you're saying that this is the safe amount, but now you have people that are not eating that amount that you're saying is now safe. So it's becoming unsafe. So you need to, I feel like, in a way, they need to elaborate how to bring it where people get more information of like if you do consume this much or whatever the case is, this could happen. Give us like actual side effects of this, you know? Don't tell us like, oh, it's considered low and it's not a real big health risk. But you're saying that in your studies that they're consuming, we're Americans are consuming a higher amount of it versus the amount that is supposed to. And you can't control that because like obviously one chip has maybe a certain amount of it and then someone else eats another chip or the same person's eating the whole bag. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like varies. So a lot of safety concerns has came up. So the safety concerns that I've seen mainly, and this was based off a chart that I seen with a bunch of information about FDA approved products or even ingredients that should not be in our food. But hey, like they say, if it's a small amount, it's considered safe. So we'll keep that in mind. So the question of concern and safety of Red 40 is its consumption because of the fact that you have a lot of people that are experiencing hyperactive. So if you notice, like when you give maybe a kid or something like some type of sugary stuff, you know, sometimes it's candy and sometimes it's something else like cookies or something. Usually, like if they're eating cookies, maybe with some frosting that has like a color to it versus a non-color, they might be more active. So it does show that from other studies that it can cause hyperactive and then cause like tumors essentially, and it can be cancerous. So that's where it becomes a problem long term. So hyperactive can maybe be a approach of maybe younger kids, but the tumor itself can be something that develops over time. So like they said earlier, the consumption during a lifetime is considered safe, but you have the probability of maybe getting that side effect. And I feel like they should kind of approach that into like, this is the serious health concerns right here versus the minor self concerns. And then there's other sources that say that it causes allergies as well as migraines. So it could mess with your like food allergy profile. You could be now allergic to something where it says, for example, like allergies are when your body immune responds to a substance that does not cause a response in most people. So, for example, this can be like pollen, dust, mold, latex, food, or food content. And it says that they have linked allergy reactions to migraines, a type of headache. And the allergies reported in children and adults for both synthetic and natural food coloring, but they tend to be rare and mild. So that's why I say that this is not really a concern, but it definitely needs to be more spoken about and more information needs to be put on the media about it. Because at the end of the day, you will want to know what you're eating, you know? If someone gave you food and they didn't tell you anything about it and they just said, here, eat this plate, and then you don't know what ingredients are in it, you don't know what type of food it is. Like, obviously, we know our basic food based off of like when we eat and go out and stuff, but if someone just gave you some food with a lot of like color to it, so like if you saw, like, for example, if you got some chicken or something with like it was all red, you ask them like, what is this red stuff on it? You know what I mean? Like obviously they have the ingredient profile, but they could have put like, oh, it's just red sauce, and then you want to know more like, what is this red sauce on here? Or like, what's the red sauce? Is it spicy? Is it a dye with spice or whatever? You want to know that stuff. So, and here is where I mentioned about the hyperactive part. But this is more towards they have made claims that Red 40 may have linked to mental disorders like ADHD. And to me, I find this very interesting because a while back, I did some research on prenatals because I saw a prenatal that seemed like it was all good and everything at Target, and it actually had red dye 40 in it. And I find that very interesting too because with that being in there and someone being pregnant, and that's in a way like the prenatal itself is their nutrients on top of food and water and all that and everything else that they do consume during their trimesters. But if you think about that, they're taking that pill for about 9 months or however long, and putting that dye into the baby's nutrients. Wouldn't that make sense for when the baby becomes a child or a young toddler or even like a pre kindergarten or whatever a case is to become hyperactive or even have a mental disorder like ADHD because that was part of their nutrition diet in a way. So I just find that I can definitely believe that the behavioral in children with consuming this can link to that because it says that with like obviously with kids or anybody that has ADHD, they are often easily distracted and have trouble concentrating in tasks, and they do all sorts of things like fidgeting, have outbursts or anger. So like I did hear from my husband that he said there was a woman who did a she apparently they had found facts about how dogs become aggressive by consuming this because there was a lady that gave that well not she didn't give it to him, but apparently her dog consumed hot Cheetos and became very aggressive, and he was a golden retriever, and we know that golden retrievers are not aggressive at all. They are actually the most friendliest dogs. So could you imagine a golden retriever being aggressive all of a sudden? So obviously they did some testing and everything, and there was some link to being aggressive and stuff. So of course with dogs and stuff, obviously like they consume that stuff. It's mainly their stomach that's being bothered. It's the same thing when you eat too much sugar or too much anything, your stomach starts to bother and you start to get cranky. So that just could be like, obviously numerous things, but for us to be able to know more information and what the actual side effects are and the claims that people are bringing up about it should be looked into more. And I feel like so from these cases and stuff, they say that the FDA has acknowledged that while the current research indicates that most children don't experience adverse behavior effects when consuming foods such like red 40, but some evidence suggests that certain children may be sensitive to it. So okay, so that can be a reason why certain people do have certain things when they consume this versus others. So that goes back to maybe allergies or maybe like they said sensitive. So it could be that, but like I said, very it should be more talked about on their end. I feel like they're doing their part of regulating and make sure it's not causing a health concern, but they do need to let people know, like the general population like us, that hey, by the way, this is some side effects of this. Like obviously some of us don't have time to just look at ingredients on the back of our label and stuff and just say, should I be consuming this? Should I not be consuming it? And that just kind of goes back to my previous episode about artificial flavoring and artificial dyes. But of course, like from what I learned in bio class was that if there's more than 5 ingredients on something, I kind of like try to avoid it because or if it's something like that's supposed to be simple, like chocolate, chocolate has maybe a lot of simple ingredients. And if there's a bunch of like ingredients that doesn't make sense to me, where it's like they have a lot of types, different types of sugars versus just one sugar, then I'm looking at it like, okay, why are you adding all these sugars? And then other ingredients too. So, and then while some older studies have proposed potential mechanism by which food diet may cause behavioral change, the bulk of evidence does not support this claim at this time. From what other articles I have researched, including Healthline, they put on there that there's no like actual claims of it. But I feel like it's not one of those things that is new to the food industry. So I think that's the main reason why there's not a lot of evidence of this being true or if it's false. But I feel like it's for us to analyze or even observe within over time to say like, hey, I did started feeling this way ever since I did, or hey, I've been feeling or I've seen this behavior in my young one or whoever, or I noticed this now. And obviously, like some people don't even like to talk about this stuff. They kind of just like brush it off and just say like, hey, it's not a big deal. But hey, what if it is a big deal? That's why this whole series is what is the big deal? And I am here to tell you all of it. And let me say this, the way that the pharmaceutical companies or even FDA have made it a known way to identify these dyes. So, just want to let you guys know that there is food and beverages, including dairy products that are flavored milk, yogurt, pudding, ice cream, and popsicles. Obviously, popsicles is like an easy one because it's red, and you're consuming ice that has some flavor profile of the flavor that you want. So, like, it could be cherry, it could be watermelon, but then obviously, to make it that color, they have to add that dye because naturally, even if you blend juice now, like unless you have a good juicer and you freeze it, then yeah, you can definitely get that color that you want. And I feel like that's what they should do. They should start using real fruit and stuff. But of course, cost and effective money. It takes more money to do that. But at the end of the day, for people like myself that likes to avoid these type of dyes, I would prefer to have some natural stuff. And even the natural stuff is sometimes questionable because sometimes the FDA has to pull those and they get remarket and then you see a new label and you're like, oh my God, what can you trust out here? And next ones are sweets and baked goods. So that can be cakes, pastries, candy, and chewing gum. And snacks and other items like breakfast cereal, bars, jello, fruit snacks, and chips. So that can range from Fruity Pebbles to Fruit Loops to all the stuff that you see on the web that that has a lot of color. That mainly has artificial flavoring. And then beverages like soda, sport drinks, energy drinks, and powder drink mix, including some protein powders. Could you believe that? Protein powders. The stuff that is supposed to build your muscles and everything also has dyes. So it's kind of crazy. And like other additives, red dye 40 is also used in cosmetic and like your body wash and stuff. Because I did find that some Dove products have dyes in it. And I was shocked that I was like, oh, wow. And the most way to identify these dyes when you go into the store, especially Red 40, is Red 40, Red 40 Lake, Red number 40, Red number 40 Aluminum Lake, and that also says FDNC. So those two right there would be in products like your body wash and stuff, or even stuff that like makeup maybe, or whatever the case is. And then there's Allura Red AC, CI Food Red 17, INS no, no, number 129, E129. So any of those are their way of showing that this product consumes red 40 dye. So this is your way of knowing, like, hey, does this have this in it? So it does mention, which I feel like they should. It says that manufacturers are not required to list the amount of ingredients used. They may list ingredients in distinct order by weight. Can you believe that? At the end of the day, even stuff that that's why when you go into the store, it's really hard to say, hey, in a way, like, it's easy to cut off certain things versus try to consume them without having any type of risk factor on the long run or any type of side effects that come along. It's like at the end of the day, our body does change and we do tend to go into a cycle of consuming the same stuff because we like it, like, hey, I want to go get my favorite snack, or I'm in a snacking mood. But sometimes, of course, like some people like myself, I'm like, nope, I'm good. I can pass on it. I don't need it. I don't crave it anymore like I used to. Because trust me, when I was working at Target, that's all I used to eat. I used to eat chips, candy, and everything because that's all I knew. But now I kind of limit myself with snacks, and I just eat like whole foods and stuff. And of course, like if I do come across it and stuff, I try to, like I said, limit myself where I'm not like consuming a lot of it. But because at the end of the day, like there are things out there that, like they said, that are probably not listed on there. You don't even know. So, but definitely, I do try my best to advocate in regards of these things and just like let the general public, like you guys, know, like, hey, what's going on? Because I do in the future want to be maybe a food scientist, because I am right now currently in school for medical lab technologist. I'm aiming to get my associates in that. So I will give you guys an update in future episode. But for right now, this is the end of our episode, and I hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope you guys are gonna stay tuned next Monday. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you're listening on YouTube, and Spotify listeners and Apple podcast listeners. Please, if you don't mind, rating this episode or rating the show, and also leave comments and we can chat about these things. And I hope to see you soon. Bye.